Yes, sadly, many of us have lost a loved one. Each year, around Halloween, my family and I celebrate Day of the Dead. It's a Mexican holiday in which families welcome back the souls of their deceased relatives for a brief reunion of festivities. Many of you may feel as though it's not important. However, we should all celebrate Day of the Dead in our own way because every death we have experienced has shaped us into the person we are today. They're the beginning of our roots and shouldn't be forgotten. Therefore, Dia de los Muertos involves history, specific dates, and traditions. Here's a brief history to why it's celebrated. It's a Mexican holiday where families welcome back the souls of their deceased relatives for a brief reunion that includes food, drinks, and celebration. On Day of the Dead, it's believed that the border between the spirit world and the real world dissolve. Here's some history. The roots of Day of the Dead are celebrated in present-day Mexico and among those Mexican heritage people in the United States and around the world, going back some 3,000 years to rituals honoring the Day of the Dead in pre-Columbian Mesoamerica. The Aztec and other Nahua people living in what is now Central America held a ritual viewing of the universe and saw death as an integral, ever-present part of life. Upon dying, a person was believed to travel to the land of the dead. Only after going through 9 challenging levels of a journey of several years could the person's soul finally rest in peace. In Nahua rituals honoring the dead, traditionally held in August, family members provided food and tools to aid the deceased in this difficult journey. This inspired Day of the Dead practice in which people leave food and other offerings on their loved ones' graves or set them in makeshift altars at home. Moreover, when is it celebrated? It's celebrated between the days of October 31st and November 2nd. While October 31st is Halloween, among the tradition, the gates of heaven are open on the midnight of October 31st, and the spirits of children can rejoin their families for 24 hours. On November 1st, at 12 a.m., Dia de los Angelitos is celebrated. It's where the spirits of all deceased children are believed to reunite with their families. For 24 hours, families construct an altar called an ofrenda with their departed child's favorite snacks, toys, and photographs to encourage a visit from their departed child. The names of the departed children will often be written on a sugar skull. On November 2nd at 12 a.m., Dia de los Difuntos is celebrated, which means spirits of the adults. This is to honor the lives of the departed adults. The night is filled with laughter and fun memories, much like the night before. However, the ofrendas take more of an adult theme, such as involving tequila, pan de muerto, and other foods like mole and stuff like that. Families would also play games together and create like the games they love with their loved ones and dance around the village, play music with the guitars, and have like an amazing time. November 2nd is known as Spirits of the Dead, which is Dia de los Muertos. This is the grand finale where it's celebrated all throughout Mexico and just huge parades everywhere. People dress up as little skull figures, calaveras are painted on their faces, and the parades are just filled with people. Cemetery visits are also common on the last day, as families will go to decorate the grave sites with marigold flowers, gifts, and sugar skulls with the departed's name on them. It's customary to clean the gravestones and to restore the color. Lastly, here are a few traditions. Flor de Muerto is a type of marigold flower native to Mexico and is often placed on ofrendas and around the graves. With a strong, vibrant color, the petals are used to make a path that leads the spirits from the cemetery to the family's home. An ofrenda. This is a temporary altar for families to honor their loved ones and provide them with what they need throughout their journey. They place down pictures of the deceased along with items that belong to them and objects that serve a reminder of their lives. Every ofrenda includes 4 elements, which is water, wind, earth, and fire. Water is often represented by a pitcher of anything they like to drink to quench their thirst. It can be like soda, tequila if they're an adult, who knows, hot chocolate, milk, water, anything. Papel pichado or traditional papel banners represent the wind. Earth is represented by the food, especially bread. We have a special sweet dough bread that is painted with like red color sugar, and another one that is kind of like dried out, so it's called pan de muerto. It's just a plain brown sugar dough bread. Candles are often left in the form of a cross to represent the direction so that spirit can find their way. And like I had mentioned before, drinks, which is special for the adults, such as tequila, they sit on picnic blankets next to the gravesites and eat the favorite food of their loved ones. People make special food, like I said earlier, pan de muerto, which symbolizes the soul's departed. Pan de muerto is also referred to dead bread. And like I said earlier, they make mole, which is a sauce, a sweet brown sauce mixed with chicken, invented by the town called Puebla. Calaveritas de azúcar, which are known as sugar skulls, are left on usually every gravestone, and especially for the children who have passed. People sometimes paint their face as a calavera, and the skull is used as a symbolism of the entire cycle of life, death, and rebirth, which is why they are brightly decorated. And people wear calaveras because it's believed that no matter what, every human being, whether they're beautiful or well dressed, will eventually be exposed as nothing more than a skeleton and skull. Our last tradition is an alebrije. In many major cities, a festival takes place, usually by a parade with many beautiful decorated floats that are often like floating clouds of flowers with specific themes. As you make your way, you will be greeted by large, mystical, colorful-looking creatures the size of dinosaurs known as alebrijes. They are often an assortment of characters from a bunch of different animals, like a large lizard with antennas and insect wings, or dolls with wings, anything, believe it. Like snakes have wings and legs, which is pretty amazing, believe it or not. And they're so colorful. They're not just like dark colors and stuff like that. In Mexico, they are considered creatures of our dreams and even of the realm of the dead. Moreover, as children, we have lost a pet or a grandparent, teaching us that things and people do die. Part of every human wants to believe that one can die and still return to watch over our relatives and friends. Religions built on the premise that one can die and return later. We have invented heaven, hell, and many other terms to describe the escaping inevitably end of our days because we fear of not being alive. Here are a few common misconceptions of the Day of the Dead. Dia de los Muertos is not a Mexican version of Halloween. Mexicans have celebrated Day of the Dead since over 18 BC. It is not a strange ritual. It is very similar as to going to a grave and leaving flowers or stuffed animals and lighting a candle to remember the deceased. It is not a cult, and it is nothing to do with cults. It is a Catholic Christian ritual intermixed with folk culture. Going to Mass is an essential aspect of the celebration. Altars or ofrendas are not for worshiping, but for offering our loved and memory for the departed family members. Day of the Dead is not a sad ritual. It's where we remember love and not fear. It's a day that brings happiness because we remember our loved ones, in which our loved ones, of course, bring something special into our hearts. And it's important not to forget them. People wear a calavera or a mask or something to decorate their face with. However, it is a symbolism of the entire cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Dia de los Muertos is an occasion for remembering and celebrating our dead relatives, while at the same time portraying death in a more positive light as a natural part of the human experience. Whether you choose to celebrate Dia de los Muertos or not, it's totally up to you. However, it's important to honor our loved ones who have passed away because they're the beginning of our roots and shape who we are today. Therefore, honoring others. Although we all speak different languages and have different skin tones and pray to different gods or none at all and dress in totally different ways, one thing we all have in common is death. Here's a tour around the world to learn about the interesting ways in which people honor their deceased. Chuseok is celebrated in South Korea. It's a major holiday celebrated to give thanks to the ancestors for a good harvest. Another holiday celebrated is All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day. It is a religious holiday in Western Christianity, celebrated on November 1st and November 2nd. This holiday is said to be a time where people remember the departed. Christians often visit cemeteries to place flowers and candles on the graves of their loved ones, and many attend church services. Festival of the Cows is celebrated in Nepal. It's celebrated the last 8 days in August and in September. This occasion honors the death of people during the previous years. This festivity is a light-hearted celebration and is meant to help people accept the death and ease the passing of the loved ones. Ari is mostly celebrated by the Mahamari people. It's a festivity intended to celebrate the ancestors. On that day, locals do beautiful costumes and masks and offer prayers and blessings to their forefathers and thank them for a good future, asking them for prosperity in the future. Next, we have Turning of the Bones. This perhaps to outsiders one of the most unusual celebrations of the dead. However, it is customary for them. It's a time of year when people in Madagascar remove corpses from their graves or sites, spraying them with perfume and drenching them in wine before wrapping them in silk and carrying them around the tomb with music and songs. The unique tradition comes from a belief that until a body is fully decomposed, spirits of the dead can come and go between both worlds of the dead and alive, as ours. Bon Festival has been celebrated for over 500 years in Japan and was established to celebrate the deceased ancestors, lasting over 3 days. This Buddhist confirmation tradition is not a solemn celebration and is often intended with festivals and fireworks, games, and dances as a dance performed to welcome spirits of the dead. Next, we have Hungry Ghost Festivals. It may sound scary, but it's not. It is celebrated on the 15th of the 7th lunar month, or known as the Ghost Month, in the Chinese calendar, when spirits and ghosts are believed to leave the underworld and wander the living world. Many people set an extra seat at the table for the deceased. At the end of the festival, people light flower-shaped lanterns and place them on lakes or rivers to lead the spirits back to the lower realms. This is not the only time in the Chinese culture that they celebrate the dead. Ancestors' Day or Tomb Sweeping Day is celebrated in early April, and it is a time when families go to the tombs of their ancestors and clean them. The ritual includes the offering of food and tea as well as gloss paper. There are sheets of paper that are burned during traditional Chinese ceremonies to honor the ancestors. As I bring my speech to a close, I want to remind you that going to the cemetery is not the only way you can honor the loved ones who have passed away. I hope that I have opened your eyes to the celebration of Día de los Muertos by informing you about the history and why it is sometimes referred to as a tradition that refuses to die. However, it is celebrated around the world, and the symbolism involved in the celebration. Día de los Muertos is a Mexican holiday where families welcome back the souls of their deceased relatives for a brief reunion that includes food, music, and celebration. It is a holiday for celebrating death and life. Therefore, we should all celebrate Day of the Dead in our own way because our ancestors shape who we are today. They're the beginning of our roots and should never be forgotten. I encourage you to celebrate Dia de los Muertos on November 2nd and create your own altar at home. Remember, although your loved ones may be far away, they're always close to your heart, and by doing this one special event one time a year, you will feel as though they're standing right next to you. Thank you.